George came on the radio last week. Did anyone hear the radio show last week? And we talked about some of these ideas. And a story came back to me I hadn't thought of in years, like George's ballpark story, that when I was an apprentice in the theater, I was about 15, 16 years old, the worst job that you could get was helping parking lot attendant, basically. You just had to sit there. You didn't get to see the show. You didn't get to see the actors. You just had to stand in the parking lot and point people with a flashlight and go.
And everybody's thrilled to be there,
right? This way. And I think of it, thought of it at the time certainly as just having a low boredom threshold. But it was actually what George said. It's like, if I'm here, I may as well have fun. So I started, getting a little fancy with the flashlight. We do this. I'd run in front of the car. People would watch me do this, and they go, "What kind of parking is this?" And I'd go, "It's free parking, sir." And we wound up calling it ballet parking. And it became, and of course, I started getting tips. I started getting a lot of tips.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, people started complaining that they weren't getting the parking job anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating because it was just a complete innocence of just kind of showing up. Now, I thought that was sort of quirky, individual, works for George, works for me. Yeah. We've got sort of lifestyles that allow for that. And then I started to meet people who ran big companies, who ran companies the same way. And I have a client now who runs a fund worth over half a billion. Big company. A lot of people working there. And he was telling me about their management by chairlift philosophy, which is that they found that they make their best business decisions while skiing. Mm. So whenever things are really busy, they go skiing. And because they know they're just liable to come up with their best ideas while they're there. And he said they've actually had to put together, because it's such normally a high-pressure, high-stress environment, they've had to put together a training program for the people who come there. Because most people come there from Goldman Sachs or one of the other companies where they come out of this environment where you have to have 2 sports coats, one to leave on the back of your chair when you go home so it looks like you haven't gone home.
Yeah.
So it looks like you've been there all night and all the strategies. And he says they do this training program and they teach people things like, if you go on holiday, we want you to come back tan. And apparently that's a big deal because people don't come back tan because it would show that maybe they'd been outside and not working on their holiday. And he said that the hardest thing to teach people is we to say to them, look, if you get caught up, if you get stuck with something, and you just don't know what to do, go home, take a break. He said, if the second day, if you take a break, you go home, you sleep on it, you come back the next day, you still caught up, still don't know what to do, go home. He said, now, if the third day you're still caught up, you still don't know what to do, go home. He said, because you're no good to us when you're in that state of mind. And it'll pass. It always does. Now, this is a guy, he hadn't heard any of the stuff that we know at that point, who just stumbled across, this is a wonderful way to run a very, very, very successful company in what everywhere else is considered this incredibly high pressure, high stress. Now, all the best people want to work for him. Of course they do, because they want to be in that environment. So he does very well, because the team with the best players usually wins. Sort of a simple rule of thumb.
But he's attracting people who can resonate with that.
Well, absolutely.
And don't think it's crazy.
And people who do, but just think, well, okay, I want to taste this.
Yeah, sure.
And what's interesting about it to me is when you begin to see that, hang on, this doesn't just work at an individual level. This can work at a corporate level. This can work at a huge corporate level. It opens up some possibilities for how we might go about doing business in the future, how we might go about, not just in our own lives, but bigger picture, what might be possible. And that was kind of, for me, where the title of tonight's talk came from. A whole new way of thinking about success. Is it not just how to be a little bit less stressed and a little bit less pressured while you set your goals and go out and achieve? Right? No, this is a whole different game. We're talking about looking at what would happen if you woke up one morning and you went, do you know what? I'm going to enjoy my life. But I'm not going to do it by dropping out of life. I'm going to do it by showing up to life without an agenda, without a plan. I'm going to see what happens. And I'm going to play. And I'm not, this is something George and I have talked about a lot, I'm not playing a win. I'm playing a play.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different game when you play to play.